Good morning. All right, guys, how are you guys doing? It's Friday today, and you might not get this till Monday, but we'll see. I get to give you an exciting reflection today from the wood pile. This looks like a normal wood pile, maybe, but this is actually one of my shiitake mushroom growing areas. And this is something that I took up as like a hobby a few years ago, became interested in mushroom growing, and I started doing at my home. Really easy to do, and I sometimes will do a lesson on it in plant science class and let you guys do some shiitake mushroom logs to take home. And we haven't done that in a couple years, but I was unfortunately hoping to do it this year, and then guess what? We're not going to do it. So I owe you one. Next fall, we'll do some shiitake mushrooms, plant science, future plant science. So anyway, how this works, I am growing these mushrooms on logs, and particular species work better than others. I think some of the logs that I have here are maple and beech, and these were inoculated a few years ago, probably 2 to 3 years ago. So what it means to inoculate is we take a drill bit, and you can see the holes that have been drilled in these logs, and we drill the logs 3 to 4 inches apart all the way around, and the logs generally are like 3 to 4 feet long, just so they're manageable for me to move around. And then I use plug spawn. I've also used some sawdust spawn as well. Spawn is the actual organism, the fungi itself, and it's allowed to grow and inoculated on either sawdust or little wooden dowels, which are the plugs, if you're using it in this way here. And that way you can then take that small like sawdust or plugs and inoculate a larger organism like a piece of wood, which will allow the mushrooms to grow on it. You can also grow mushrooms inside. That's a whole different lesson, whole different day. So after that log has been inoculated with the plug or the sawdust, and you put it in the drilled hole, you wax it over with some sort of wax. Could be beeswax, could be something else, and then you also wax the ends of the logs, and you can see there's not much wax left here because these are older, but the wax helps prevent competing fungi from also inoculating itself on the log. Fungi are really good at taking over a habitat, so they would love to take over a log, just native fungi out in the wild. And you can see some of the white fungi, those little white ones, are competing fungi that have become starting to grow on these logs. You can see some on these logs, and also on this next set of logs there's definitely competing fungi, but that has not stopped the shiitakes from growing. And so shiitakes, they call it fruiting when the actual little mushroom forms. Oh, there's a little baby mushroom. And you can force these logs to fruit by soaking them, or if a significant amount of rain has occurred. So earlier this week, when it rained really hard, and for a lot of rain, that actually encouraged these logs to start fruiting. So it's a little early. This is the earliest fruiting in the season, but they're starting to fruit here. So when they're in these piles, this is not great for mushrooms to grow big, nice, and something that somebody would want to eat. So we have to spread them out. And what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to take the logs in the piles that have some that are fruiting, and I have a couple of piles here that have some fruiting logs. Those are probably the only ones that I'm going to move. And I am going to move them and set them up in a little bit of an angle, like these over here. These are some older ones. They're probably not going to fruit this year or anymore. They're getting pretty rotten in this pile. And that's the beauty of mushrooms. It just kind of breaks down, and then nutrients from that organism, the organic matter, goes back into the earth. But I'm going to set them up like that. And I'm probably going to do that on this tree here, or I might set some up on the pallet itself. These guys are not ready to harvest yet, and I can tell because the cap of the mushroom, which is the top, It is still very small and very curled under. When these get a little bigger, they're going to be more appropriate to harvest, and maybe we'll talk about that another day. But I really love growing mushrooms. I hope I'll be able to share that with some of you as we can get back to school, and hope you learned a little bit about mushroom growing today. They are pretty tasty, so you should try them sometime. Don't be afraid of the mushroom. All right, guys, have a good day. Have a good weekend if I post this Friday, and we'll see you soon. Bye.